Well, hello, all you out there in AI land. My name's Jim Durbin. I'm here at the live AI Worklab, hanging out with my buddy Mark Rizzn Hopkins, who's built the incredible Sanctum OS. And what we're going to be doing for the next 30 minutes or so is talking through real live world applications of AI. Not something you put in your marketing brochure, not something you put on your website, not something you get sued for because you said it was AI and then you couldn't get it past the security, but just live, what can you really do to make yourself more productive, save yourself time, give yourself an advantage over other people? Mark, hello. It's good to see you, my good friend.
Howdy. Doing well. How about you?
Good, good. Neither one of us are wearing hats, and clearly we've decided to eschew the nonsense background stuff that everybody does. I'm coming
Right.
from my sparkling clean apartment. You're coming from your tastefully decorated home, which is fine because that's where most of us are doing our AI work anyway. So what we have today, folks, is the introduction of Sanctum OS. We're going to be going through a series of things that you can look at, like how to build databases, how to do deep reports correctly. It's not just prompt engineering, because quite frankly, that's almost the beginner level at this point. Instead is what could you do? What work are you doing that AI will contribute to making your job better? And so with that, we want to talk a little about Sanctum OS. Mark, you want to pull up your screen here?
Sure.
So Sanctum OS, the reason it's called that is he has built literally it's not literally, he's built a brain. So instead of using AI to just do a task, he's built a way for it to, the way he described it to me is an intern. You bring an intern on, they don't know how to do anything. That's the problem with most of the AI work that we're doing today is that you have to know the process fully. And most of that can be done with automation. But once you launch it, if it solves one problem, pays attention to your data, enters information correctly into your CRM ATS, once it begins to do the job, it learns more, and that's how it gets insights. We keep looking for that one easy button as opposed to treating it literally like a growing entity that gets smarter on your data over time. And the reason that's so important is if it understands you, it does the job you want it to do. Most software is built so that you have to learn the software to use it. But no one ever teaches you how to use the software to do your job, whether it's Salesforce or LinkedIn Recruiter or anything else out there. So the goal here is not for you to learn how to use the software, for the software to learn what you personally are doing, make it better, and offer suggestions. So with that, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit what we're looking at here?
All right. Well, so this is actually just Cursor. Cursor is an IDE that allows you to pretty much design any software you want. This is all developer speak. I'll dial it back into
No, go
normal
developer
language.
speak. Definitely go
Yeah.
developer speak. Let's not dumb it down.
Okay. Well, so an IDE, so it's based off of VS Code. So if you've ever written any software, it's Microsoft's development environment. And so this is a kind of a modified version of that. This little column over here is where your agent, your AI assistant lives. It really kind of takes the development part out of development, right? So there's a bunch of solutions that work like this that are out there. A lot of them are derisively called OpenAI wrappers. Claude has Claude Code. OpenAI has their own thing, Codex. There's things like Windsurfer. Cursor is just the one that I like the most. It works for what I like the most because it allows you to both see what your code looks like, have like a holistic view of your entire repo, and then also this nice little junior developer that lives on your computer to help you write the code. So you only have to
So
think
let's
about the big
let's
picture.
explain that again. I'll do the dumbing down. You use the big words since we have
Okay.
different kinds of audiences. Basically, any of the code builders are they're like white labeled code. So someone like me could jump in there. I can read some code. I'm certainly not a developer like Mark, and I don't put the time and attention that he does into it. But basically, it's how do you? It's not no code. It's not vibe coding. It's closer to vibe coding, but allows people that don't have um, perfect understanding of code to write some. That's not a great use for most of us. Like, I'm not going to download Python and run things and try to hack it together, but it's important I know how this is written and what the difference is. So our goal here is not just, it's not to teach you how to use Cursor. It's if you're talking to someone and they're saying, oh, I built it in this or I built into that, is to strip away the illusion that it's actually impressive, understand what they're actually saying, and then begin to ask real questions. So I'll pop in every once in a while from the business standpoint and ask Mark what we're talking about. He's showing you the code, but our long-term goal is to build something that you don't need the code, but you still need to know how it's done.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, the Sanctum OS thing that I built, it is basically an operating system, a framework for agents, AIs to run in. I'll kind of get how that ties into what we're looking at on the screen in a minute. This is a project that you pulled me into with a mutual friend of ours, a mutual associate that had basically no process to how he operated. He does a certain kind of sales in the energy business, selling generators and turbines and stuff like that. And it was starting to get overwhelming, like the deal size, the number of balls in the air. In business, especially in enterprise, the answer to that is to build an ERP or a CRM, right? And everybody from a business perspective or a dev perspective understands what that means. Unfortunately, for most people up until now, bringing an ERP into anything that's a small to medium business or like a sole proprietorship, like our friend, is a non-starter. The upfront cost, the development cycles, we're talking months and months and months to get something done. However, with a tool like Cursor and someone who understands what technology stacks are, I was able to put this together in, I mean, I was able to put the broad strokes of it together in about 4 hours, and then I spent another 2 days or so, like fixing bugs and nailing out what the stack needed to be. And I was able to create, and what I'll show you here on this other screen is a full-on ERP that is ready to be deployed into an agentic environment, right?
So let's slow it down and start over and explain a little bit of it. Think of it this way: our buddy Eric is walking to work every day. So if he could go buy a $200,000 sports car, but it's only a half a mile from his house. So there's not really a reason to do so. Or call it a mile. So the question is, you could buy a bunch of stuff, everything from a scooter all the way up into a sports car, but you don't need that much of it. And more important, then you have to get insurance, you have to get a driveway, you have to plan the road. There's all this other stuff that goes with it. In terms of software, that would be like you could buy Salesforce, but Salesforce isn't going to solve his immediate problem. It needs to be customized. Then he has to put all the work into it. And 90% of the stuff that they have, he doesn't need right now. That's the problem with bloated software. So what Mark began with was because we sat down, there were three areas we needed to fix. One is he needed a database of searchable products. So every time he gets products, they come into his phone, they come to WhatsApp, they come to his email, they come to social channels. He's got to somehow put those into a depository, which takes a lot of time. Most of the time, he just leaves it and researches his phone. So when Mark said, okay, the first thing we need is a searchable database of everything you want in there. If you're out searching this information on the web, if you want to scrape it, we can do it from there, but you need a central repository. He built an actual database, and then it also allows him to log the activity. Then he connected the phone and the computer so that all Eric has to do is click a button and it dumps it in. Agentic down the road will do this all for him. Down the road, we mean in a short time, not years, but because Eric wants to sell and stay on the phone. But he's not going to sit down and put this in. And because he's a small business, it doesn't do any good to save it for other people. So he was doing enough, but there's no way for him to scale. There's no way for him to get 5 or 10x the offers because he just doesn't have a system in place. So what Mark did is listen to what he did, literally built a system that works just for Eric and did it in less than 6 hours, including sitting down and talking to him, including trying to convince Eric of what he needed and talk through. And now we have literally a working database that he can use that's going to help him build his business. This is the scooter. As he does more, we're going to begin to add things like building out a business website and others, showing him how to do those, setting up contacts to send out other people, doing deep research on the web to figure out what products will yield what needs for emergency generators 6 months from now. So we're starting with a scooter, but we're going to end up with that sports car, but it's all based on his business as it grows. So it's literally custom development. And so while, yes, you have to have enough coding to start out at the beginning, you don't have to, but Mark knows it well. The whole point is that when it's done, Eric will have something that works the way that he works, that is native just to him, doesn't require upgrades, extra licenses. It's all about what he's building. And that's what we're trying to show you here. So why don't you show off a little bit this pretty cool dashboard, Mark?
Sure, sure. So, like log into it. It's actually got user management, and I can log out and show you here. So, I mean, it's password protected. Um,
Is the password 1234, or is that just
I mean,
paradoxes?
that's what that warning was. Yes, I was using it, but this version is running on my local machine, so
Is it
literally
admin
nobody.
admin? Because that's how I used to break into VMSs back in
Admin,
1994.
admin 123. So
Yeah.
anyway, there you go. But first thing you can do is actually, so what, I mean, I'll show you what it comes like.
So notice, guys, this is all built. This is literally what you pay people. And it used to take 6 months to 12 months to roadmap out and done. And this works.
Yeah,
That's what makes this as exciting. It's literally built for them instantly. Simple, clean.
so yeah, I mean, I mean, it looks like any, and it operates like any full featured, system. It's got user management and, roles, so we can create a user for
Again,
Jim
for those
here.
of you who aren't aware of this, this is nothing. This is why all the developers get really, really excited. This doesn't look like much for us because we're used to just pulling up and paying for it. But I'm telling you, the fact that you can build it, it looks this good, it's secure, it works. Developers are like, yeah, that's the stuff.
Does basic activity logs, so things are deleted or removed or changed, you're going to be able to have some sort of version history on that. The ability to add generators, required fields, non-required fields, system notes. Essentially, this is a full-featured ERP. What isn't clear from just this like few screens that I'm showing you here is the construction under the hood. And for that, I'm going to go back into the IDE and show you a little bit there.
And remember, the key
So,
here is Eric has to manually enter these today, but in 6 weeks or so, without having to do much more, we can pull it directly from his activity. So all of a sudden he's going, I mean, everybody says Copilot and stuff does that, but it does it the way it wants to. We can do it the way
right.
Eric works so that Eric doesn't have to learn the system learns him. It makes
Copilot's a
it,
little bit like an overpowered Clippy. It's not
yeah.
it's
Well,
not quite what we need for stuff like this. So essentially, and this is the key words that you're going to have to remember if you're dealing with an AI assisted coder, or if you are looking to build something like this before. You want to build with an AI first architect. I'm sorry, an API first architecture. The reason for that is that the standard for all these chatbots, agents, and AIs that are coming out from Claude, Grok, OpenAI, they're all being built, and other like down market AI companies as well. They're all being built to something called a standard called MCP. And so what MCP is, it's a wrapper that sits around APIs and SDKs, which is to say programmatic interfaces for software, that allows the AI to instantly learn how to interface with that piece of software. And it's a whole lot harder to teach an AI, agentic or not, how to use a web app versus how to use an API or an MCP controlled API, right? So essentially, the under the hood, we've got an API here. So if you don't know what an API is basically if you go to your favorite website, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, there's some sort of like programmatic interface with long passwords that are alphanumeric that allow computers to access and get into that exchange data without going through a web interface. We've built that here. And then everything else that you see in this web interface, it's not architected to where like how most web apps are, where it's going directly to the database. It's architected so that it's going through the API that we just created. Now, the reason for that is because we want to make sure that API is bulletproof and easy to access. Because once that's bulletproof, then going into any agentic environment like Sanctum allows you to essentially just say to your agent, "Hey, go add a generator," and it can do it based on the data that you give it, as opposed to having to teach it everything about like or having to expend expensive
but that's a
API
huge
cycles
point for
around
people to
capturing
understand.
screens or browsing the web or anything like that.
That's a huge point for people to understand. What he's saying is he's building something that's built to grow. So whether it's Lego parts being added, which is probably the easiest way to look at it, if you just cast a mold of some kind, you make some action figure, it's hard to add stuff to it. But if you build it in a Lego set and it's done correctly, you can snap pieces to it. So when he talks about an API, if you wanted to add a Zapier to it, if you wanted to add a credit card to it, if you wanted to add a Dripify or LinkedIn or your email or anything else, that API access allows you to connect to those things as opposed to having to rebuild something entirely with every customization. That's what makes things expensive. So when you're talking to a developer or when you're planning something like this out, the key, that's what you have to ask. Custom means expense. But in this case, AI has allowed Mark to build something where custom means ready to grow. And that should be the most important thing in your head. If I'm picking an AI tool, I'm using it to solve one problem. Because if you're just using it to send emails or something, you know what? Just take it, pay the $9 a month and have somebody else do that. But if you want it to expand and grow over time, you've got to basically treat it like an intern that you hired that you're training. And that intern has to have enough understanding about what you're doing. It has to have, we'll call it its college admission, but it's got to be built in a way that it can easily plug into anything else that you want. And that decision you're making right now, always drop $20 on 6 different tools. They don't really connect, or you're counting on them to connect. What happens when they break? What happens when one of them breaks? Your whole system breaks down. This is built in the exact opposite. This is really bottom up, which we know is more successful. So those are the questions you need to be asking when you're hiring your AI developers. That's what you do when you're telling your own developers to do something. Stop telling them I want an outcome. Instead, say, this is the system. That's what makes Mark's work so interesting here. It's a system that you can build things around so that as things grow, as ChatGPT releases something new, as hardware gets faster, no matter what happens, you're growing an entity. Maybe I'll call it an entity, but we've called it an entity before.
Yeah.
In fact, this goes further than that. To give you a sense, Mark, why don't you mention, well, I'll just ask you, what is Vernal? Who is
Uh,
Monday? And who are all these people?
Monday, yeah. I can pull up Monday over here. So this is a working instance of Monday, and in the background, I'm going to pull up Monday's brain so we can see what it looks like from her side of things. Let's see, self-hosted. This is a self-hosted instance of an AI agent built on the Sanctum OS architecture. Um, the core piece of Sanctum is a system called LetUp. Um,
So understand what this
it'll,
means. This is not just a database you throw out and you have to rebuild. This is an actual true, it's not a chatbot. That's not right. This is an agent. This can answer all the questions. I've spent time with this. Mark's had several people do it. The best is a story about the guy who ran for city council and won based on what it was telling him. It gets to
yep,
know you. It has a personality. This is truly an assistant that grows with you and also just happens to be connected. In this case, connected to ChatGPT, so you can ask it questions, but not prompting. You can just talk to it. You talk to it. In
right.
this case through this is through Telegram. You've got to set up through other things. But so the Sanctum OS system is not just about one thing. It is a system that learns and grows with you and gets better. In this case, you want to set a chatbot, one that can really talk to your people on your website. It does a great job of that. You want to talk to it yourself and say, help me plan and build my stuff out. It helps you do that. You want to build a database on top of it that connects to a system like this. So it's putting these pieces together. And that's why we're talking about it continuing to grow. What are we running here? Here's my ever expanding list of to-dos.
Oh, this is from earlier today. We were doing some planning out on the next bits on the Sanctum
So this is
roadmap.
great.
But
So he's topping out, hey, Monday, we're live on a podcast together. This is all live. He's topping this into this. Can you show us how to do TA on Ethereum? Show me the 5-day TA forecast. What's the TA again? Because it knows
technical
and we don't.
analysis.
Do a technical analysis. And why would you do that?
So a lot of the people in my circle like to use Monday as a helper to make crypto investment decisions.
So it's
So I
gathering some
built,
stuff. You used to have to go search the web, hope they got it right.
yeah.
What's to
So
stop it
what
from giving the same bad advice I might get because I'm an idiot?
so what she's doing here is like so you can kind of see she has chain of thought, much like
So you can
oops,
see what she's doing the reasoning. Okay.
yeah. So she's going through, she's pulling the coin information for Ethereum. She goes, okay, that's the right coin information. I'm going to pull 20 days of historical price data. I'm going to run. This is a different like calculations that you use on charts. She's already done. I'm still showing everybody what she did. Uh, she didn't have the MACD because she didn't have sufficient data points. So she says she's going to skip that and then does the math on everything. She deletes her work. She created a workspace for her to like do all of the work in, right? And then once that was done, she was time to delete the workspace, delete the scratch pad. And then over here in Telegram, which is where I mostly chat with her, she will give me the full breakdown. So Ethereum is currently trading at $3,571. If we are strictly looking at the TA, this is the 5-day outlook, what the charts say that Ethereum will be at over days 1 through 5.
So this is fascinating. So you could just, if you chose to, read the other side. By the way, this isn't saying go out and do crypto trading. What he's saying is Mark does crypto trading. Mark pays attention to things, writes about it, discusses it. He's active in the blockchain, Web3, and crypto communities. So if you weren't, though, this could start to give you an education about it. If you know more about it, you could read the central part, which is the reasoning behind what Monday's doing. So you could check it, which he does because he knows what he's doing. But then there's also the next step, which is really the coding aspect of it. So the whole point is that, again, it's not going to just solve your problems for it. In this case, it's learning what he wants. In the future, he could say, let's build a framework for that. And all he has to do is type what he did, which, hey, let's do a 5-day analysis with TA on Ethereum. And it'll do exactly this, replicating it each time, as opposed to having to get a prompt, hoping it hasn't been changed, explaining it, fighting it. Over time, this means you're not just reprompting or guessing. It's learning with you what you like and what you need. And then you can say, hey, I don't like the output. What would you suggest? You talk to it the same way you talk to sorry, I cheated there. I gave you the key.
Human, an agent, an intern.
An intern. You talk to it
Yeah,
like an intern, and then
right.
eventually you talk to it as an associate, and then later on you'll be able to talk to it as a partner. That
I
is the
mean,
goal of all these. There's no point in AI. Just go do automation if you're not going to do that. This is about building something that works the way that you work, gives you the results that you want, backstops things, catches things. That's the point of all this. And it can start with a database or it can start with an assistant. But it starts with you asking the right questions. So,
I mean, you can see where this is like her core memories. This is like how she sees herself. She also this is like so the thing that was showing you a second ago, the core blocks where it attaches and detaches scratch pads and places where it saves things. You'll see that you know these are all self-modifiable. She can learn and she'll take instructions to heart. So if you say I never well, there was a problem early on with her personality because she's sort of a sarcastic AI agent. That was how she was
right.
designed to be. But she would also start every third sentence with blah 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 blah. Like it always started with the word AH. So you can like everybody that talked to her is like, please stop doing that. It's so annoying. And you can see she started to modify her own instructions to adapt to the preferences of the users and also like the tone and behavior and all this. So as you can see, it's actually in here several times. This particular set of instructions about modifying the language use. That's just kind of one example of how it adapts. But also, again, like where you're talking about actual work skills, how to do these types of technical analysis. That's a set of skills that comes in there that you can teach over time. You set it up initially with like kind of hopefully what is your robust set of instructions, but if it's not correct or if it's not coming out exactly the way it is, you just talk to them like a person. Say, hey, this is how we want to do it from now on. They'll go and modify those instructions later on. Google searches is another great example. I mean, just something as basic as that. I just gave Monday, and um, this right here is a function pulling up right now. I'd have to pull up in the tool manager.
Oh, here, I got to run here for this, which is fine because no one's going to be listening all the way to the end of it.
But this is what's going on the back end. So there's no real
Right.
instructions in this other than call this query, and it's going to pull up a bunch of saved searches, or it's going to pull up a search. It was not doing deep searches initially. Monday was only doing like the first page of results. And I'm like, no, that's not good enough. When I want you to search for something, I really want you to find the thing. So
And then you
now,
can talk to it as opposed to having to super prompt it or add custom profiles or the other things that are out there. So
exactly.
that's what we'll be dealing with a lot of these folks. Mark is so far in, and we've argued many times about it, about how much responsibility you as a business owner, you as an entrepreneur, you have for learning these things. And the truth is, you can't just sit back. You can, but you're gonna have to wait a while. You're gonna have to wait for the easy buttons, at which point you'll have lost the advantage. But if you can start on the right side, if you can work through some of these, if you're asking people the right questions, you're going to be so productive that you're going to have the money, the time, and the expertise to take advantage of those. So instead of being 6 months or a year or 10 years behind because stuff moves so fast, you'll be at a point where we can show you how to build this stuff out. So if you have questions, you want to talk to us about it, Mark, what's the best way to reach you?
Probably in email, mark at rizzn.com, or go to Live AI Work Lab. There's a contact form right there. Also on Rizzn.net, there's a contact form right there.
rizzn.net. And for me, you can just search Jim Durbin on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest. Or check out Live AI Work Lab. We'll have a bunch more of those out there. Mark, I'm excited about this. This has come a long way. And it's funny. It's cool that it's now, not funny, but it's cool that it's now getting into production. So, on behalf of Live AI Work Lab and Mark Rizzn Hopkins from Sanctum OS, you guys have a great day. We'll have a lot more coming to you on how actual work gets done.